Welcome, everyone, and thanks again for joining the Silicon Labs product podcasts. Today, I'm excited. We have Johan Pedersen joining us. Johan joined Silicon Labs with the ZWave acquisition last year, and now he's here today to talk about the smart home. He's going to have two episodes. The first episode, he's going to share something he's very, very familiar with, which is the ZWave ecosystem. So he's going to answer a lot of questions that I have about that, and hopefully you will all gain some insight. After that, in the second episode, he's going to expand and go into the smart home. Since he's been at Silicon Labs, he's now expanded his role. He's now the product marketing manager for our Smart Home IoT division. And so he's going to provide some answers that I have about that market. So make sure you listen to that episode after we finish up with this one. Thanks, Johan, though. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Kyle. I'm glad to.
Yeah, well, this is your first time, so hopefully everything goes smoothly. I did put some questions together, and hopefully you have some good answers for the audience. The first
Awesome.
one, can you just provide a quick update? As I mentioned, it's been a year since the acquisition. Can you give us an update on the ZWave ecosystem, sort of your elevator pitch about ZWave, and then maybe go into what do you see in the next year or year and a half? I mean, what do you see exciting in ZWave for 2019 and 2020?
Of course, Kyle. So ZWave is a full smart home solution that is sort of an end-to-end solution from Silicon Labs that covers all the building blocks needed to build a smart home system. So this involves all the hardware, the software that goes into the end devices as well as the gateways to provide a full smart home solution where a lot of different products can work together with a lot of different applications in mind. ZWave is one big ecosystem of smart home products. There are around 700 companies working with the ZWave technology, part of the ZWave Alliance, and we are approaching 3,000 different certified ZWave products in this ecosystem. These are installed throughout the globe, and we are now having more than 100 million devices out there. ZWave is all about interoperability and backwards compatibility. That means that when you buy and install a ZWave product, because it has the ZWave logo on there, you are ensured that this product will work with any other ZWave product that carries the same logo and the same promise. And this is why ZWave has gone so big and in so many different areas of the smart home. And ZWave has been around for many years. It started in the early 2000s. And since then, a lot of things have happened. We have recently seen the great impact of now being a part of the Silicon Labs family, where we have now launched the ZWave 700 platform on the wireless Gecko. This has delivered a huge improvement for the smart home customers of Silicon Labs and for ZWave, with longer battery lifetime, longer range, faster time to market, lower cost products. In general, an improvement around the scale of any need for the future of the smart home products.
Over 100 million devices. That's I know since I've been watching ZWave since it's joined the company, you guys are ramping quickly. It's just been fun to watch. Can you explain a couple of the applications that we're seeing this growth, and also you mentioned the 700 series where you see maybe some new markets?
Of course. So just to give a few examples around the globe, so ZWave is used everywhere, but the biggest market is still in the US. And here, the security providers have historically been a very, very big market for ZWave, where security companies have leveraged the large ecosystem of smart home products to deliver smart home services to the security customers. Those are traditional companies such as Alarm.com, ADT, and so forth. But recently, we've seen some of these DIY security systems, such as the Ring Alarm, also leveraging ZWave and the ZWave ecosystem. Then you have sort of DIY smart home systems, where some of the big ones are, for example, SmartThings, that also leverages ZWave. And in Europe, we see both ZWave growth in sort of the energy service providers, as well as new activities with insurance companies wanting to deliver a smart home service, and they just want to leverage the big smart home ecosystem of ZWave and not having to develop all the products themselves. And this is the same thing we also see with large telcos, for example, in Korea and Japan, that are rolling out smart home services together with their other businesses, such as phone services or internet services. And there we have big companies such as LGU Plus and KDDI. So those are some of the big customers that are driving the adoption of ZWave products. Then the specific ZWave products that we see large growth in, ZWave is very well known for like thermostats and door locks, but the biggest growth area lies in both lighting and in sensors in general, where there's a lot of places in the home where we have lighting. There's a lot of places where we can apply sensors and provide more intelligence in the home.
Okay, so you've talked about the growth and you've talked about some of the applications, but we have a lot of engineers out there listening. What are some of the design requirements and the design criteria that customers need to be aware of? I mean, as you mentioned at the beginning, ZWave mandates interoperability. And so, it's a very firm standard. Can you talk about how that's enforced and what the design requirements are for those customers or those people who adopt the ZWave ecosystem?
Yeah, so since we joined Silicon Labs, this is maybe one of the primary difference between ZWave and the other smart home IoT technologies we have in Silicon Labs, where we very strictly enforce certification on any ZWave product, because ZWave is one big ecosystem, and there is a big promise in saying, you make a ZWave device, then we promise that it will work with another ZWave device. The only way to ensure that is to have a certification program that every product needs to go through, that checks that each product delivers on that promise. On other technologies, there are also certification programs, but they're less strict, and there's more flexibility, and you can do more custom things. Whereas in ZWave, you have to comply with what the ZWave specification says. So this means that when you're designing a new product, you really need to consult with the ZWave specification. So let's say you've chosen to go with ZWave and be a part of this one big smart home ecosystem. You buy a dev kit from Silicon Labs, and then you go in and you consult with the specification documentation. You find your specific product type, and you find the specific requirements that are needed, the different types of command classes and the different features that it needs to share with the ZWave network once it gets installed. After consulting the ZWave specification, then another important aspect is to start a certification form on the ZWave certification portal. So doing this in the beginning of your development, creating a new certification under the portal that will guide you through, where you go in and you choose what ZWave generation hardware and software you're using, what type of device you're making, and then the form will populate with all the mandatory requirements that you will be tested against once you submit your product for certification. So this is a very important detail to keep in mind when starting the development, whereas with other technologies you might have been used to worrying about certification at a later point. With ZWave, it makes it so much easier for you as a developer if you consult with both the specification and the certification form in the beginning of your project, because they will guide you through what mandatory things are needed to become ZWave compliant. Luckily, ZWave software, all the application code that is brought through the ZWave development kit is pre-certified. So this means you can take our door lock application code and use that for your new door lock project, meaning that you can base your product on this already pre-certified code. So most of the work is already done for you, enabling you to go fast through certification. So we've done all we can to ensure that it's as smooth ride as possible.
Okay, so talking about smooth rides, I know that you and the ZWave team were excited to get into the Silicon Labs development environment. You mentioned the 700 series. There's the new development kit that you touched on. Can you talk about, now that the 700 series is mass production ready, some of the steps that customers should follow for developing?
Of course. So it's been fantastic to come into Silicon Labs and being able to leverage the great tools that the company has, such as Simplicity Studio, now delivering all ZWave tools, code, and documentation through a single interface of Simplicity Studio. So this means that the ZWave developers are able to now enjoy some of the tools that were already there, that has not been on ZWave before, such as the energy profiler, which is really handy when you're developing a new product and actually being able to correlate the communication, power consumption with the code, and optimize the code energy use. Further, previous ZWave developing experience while debugging has been very challenging. There wasn't really a debug functionality. Now there's full debug capability through Simplicity Studio, which is something that will save a lot of time for ZWave development as compared to earlier generations. Another thing is the pre-certified sample code that is in Simplicity Studio. So you can basically, in a very short amount of time, get a functional prototype up and running. So you start up Simplicity Studio, you connect your dev kit, and then you load the application software on your device. So let's say you're making a light switch, you take the light switch code, and then you load it on the dev kit, and then you actually have a functional light switch that is already pre-certified, and then you can make your little adjustment to whatever features you might need, and then you would be ready to go and actually get this through certification and to production. So through all these tools, it is possible to get from idea to certified product within a few months.
That's true. We had the training just a month ago, and you and your team walked a group of us through it, and we were able to quickly take advantage of the tools and the example code, and we were making switches and outlets very quickly. It was pretty cool. So, Johan, that's a good wrap, a good endpoint for this podcast. You said you'd join me afterwards, and we'll talk a little bit more about the smart home. But thanks for your time. Is there a place you'd suggest that people go just to get resources and learn more about ZWave?
Of course. If you go to the Silicon Labs webpage and click on our wireless technologies and ZWave, in there you can learn a lot more about the different ZWave tools, the hardware building blocks, the certification program, the specification, and learn about the benefits of the ZWave technology and the whole ZWave ecosystem. And another great source of information on ZWave is the ZWave Alliance website, where there is a product catalog where you can go in and see all the different types of devices that has been ZWave certified. Those are all available in there. And then the last site to look at in general for ZWave products is a site called ZWave.com that shows all a great deal of commercially available ZWave products.
Great. Well, I will put those into the episode notes so all of our listeners, you can go in there and grab those links quickly. Johan, thanks for your time today. Thanks to all the listeners for joining us, and make sure to stay on and listen to the next episode where Johan talks about the smart home. But for now, that ends this podcast. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle.